Alexander sat quietly in his luxurious apartment, his gaze fixed on the vibrant city lights shimmering through his windows. Skyscrapers stood tall, casting reflections on the glass panes, yet none of it seemed to capture his attention as he stared down at the invitation in his hand. It was a wedding invitation, elegantly designed on ivory paper with delicate gold lettering, bringing a message that weighed heavily on his heart. Jenna, his ex-girlfriend, was getting married. Though it had been a year since they broke up, the news seemed to rip open old wounds, flooding him with memories and emotions he thought he'd buried. He and Jenna had shared a deep connection, but Alexander's dedication to his career had driven them apart. Jenna had often told him, "You're always so busy, Alexander. I feel like I'm not even a part of your life anymore." Despite his love for her, he had never been able to balance his ambitions with his relationship, and in the end, she decided to leave. He still remembered that day, the look of sadness in her eyes, her determined yet gentle voice as she told him it was over. Those words had lingered, etching themselves into his heart, leaving a dull ache that he had carried since. Now, with the wedding invitation in his hand, Alexander felt a raw ache and an undeniable sense of regret. He realized she had moved on without him, finding happiness elsewhere. The thought of attending her wedding alone stirred something uncomfortable within him, a void he couldn't quite describe. In an effort to clear his mind, he decided to take a walk, hoping that the bustling city streets would ease the heaviness in his chest. As he strolled through the lively city, Alexander let the sounds of laughter, car horns, and the general hum of people fill the silence within him. He hoped the energy of the streets would distract him, but his thoughts kept circling back to Jenna. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to a quiet corner where a woman sat on the sidewalk, her appearance worn and her hair a bit disheveled. Yet, despite her modest appearance, there was a certain warmth about her that caught his eye. Her gentle smile, despite her difficult circumstances, radiated a quiet strength, a calmness he found inexplicably intriguing. Curious, Alexander approached her with a hesitant smile. "Hi," he said softly, his voice carrying a warmth he hadn't intended. "My name is Alexander." The woman looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes before she offered him a kind smile. "Hello, I'm Maria," she replied, her voice gentle yet guarded. There was something in her demeanor that made Alexander feel an odd sense of ease, as if he'd found a rare moment of genuine human connection in an otherwise chaotic world. As they began talking, Alexander quickly realized that Maria was much more than she appeared. Her eyes held wisdom, and her words were thoughtful, filled with stories of resilience and strength. She shared pieces of her life, how she'd once had a stable job and a comfortable life, but had fallen on hard times after a series of unfortunate events. Despite the hardships, she had managed to keep her spirit alive, holding on to hope and kindness. Alexander found himself drawn to her honesty, to her quiet strength, and to the gentle dignity with which she carried herself. Without fully understanding why, he felt a deep respect and admiration for Maria. In her presence, he felt less alone, his own worries seeming smaller in comparison to the strength she exuded. After a pause, an idea sparked in his mind, a bold, impulsive idea that even surprised him. "Maria," he said, his voice a little uncertain yet sincere, Would you like to come to a wedding with me?" Maria's eyes widened in surprise, her expression both curious and hesitant. "You want me to be your date?" she asked, a bit unsure of what he was asking. Alexander nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "Yes, it's the wedding of my ex-girlfriend, and I don't want to go alone." He paused, searching for the right words. "I thought maybe you could use a day to feel special too. I can make sure you have a nice dress and a lovely meal, and maybe it could be a break from all this." For a moment, Maria seemed lost in thought, processing his unexpected invitation. Her guarded smile softened as she looked at him, as if weighing his sincerity. Alexander's eyes reflected a genuine warmth, an offer made not out of pity, but of kindness. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice tinged with disbelief. "I mean, I'm not exactly the kind of person who goes to such events." Alexander smiled, understanding her hesitation. "I'm sure. I think you deserve a day to feel valued and special. And honestly," he added, his tone growing lighter, "I could use the company too." After a brief hesitation, Maria finally nodded, a small smile breaking through her initial reluctance. "All right, Alexander," she said, her voice steady but touched with emotion. "I'll go with you." In that moment, Alexander felt an unusual sense of relief, as if inviting her had somehow eased his own burden. He didn't know where this unexpected journey with Maria would lead, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of excitement, a thrill he hadn't felt in years. There, in the quiet of that busy city street, a simple invitation began to open a new path for both of them, one filled with unexpected possibilities and the promise of change. The following day, Alexander kept his promise to Maria, taking her to one of the most exclusive boutiques in the city. As they stepped through the grand doors, Maria's eyes widened in awe, taking in the luxurious displays of designer dresses, sparkling jewelry, and elegant shoes. Rows of garments, each one more beautiful than the last, stretched out before her like an exhibit of unreachable dreams. She hesitated, feeling slightly out of place amid the opulent surroundings, but Alexander's reassuring smile gave her the courage to step forward. At first, the boutique staff gave Maria a few curious glances, clearly noticing her worn clothing and modest appearance. They seemed uncertain about her presence, but Alexander, sensing their hesitation, quickly stepped in and made it clear that he was there to help her find the perfect outfit. His words were firm, and his respect for Maria was evident, changing the staff's attitude instantly. They soon brought out some of the finest dresses, shoes, and accessories, treating Maria with the same attention they would give any wealthy client. Maria felt a wave of emotions as they helped her into a beautiful gown. Excitement, disbelief, and a touch of nervousness all blended together as the staff worked their magic, styling her hair, applying makeup, and adorning her with jewelry. When she finally looked at herself in the mirror, Maria could hardly believe her own reflection. She saw a woman who looked elegant and confident, her beauty shining through in a way she hadn't seen in years. More than the outward transformation, though, she felt something shift inside, a reminder of the dignity and strength she'd thought she had lost. As they left the boutique, Maria turned to Alexander, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice filled with sincerity. "I've never felt this way before. It's overwhelming, but in a good way." Alexander smiled warmly, genuinely moved by her words. "You deserve this, Maria," he replied, his tone soft but firm. "You're more than your circumstances, and I'm glad you're starting to see that too." They spent the rest of the evening together, getting to know each other over coffee at a quiet cafe. Maria opened up about her past, sharing stories of the life she once had, the hardships she faced, and the resilience she discovered within herself. Alexander listened intently, deeply moved by her journey. In turn, he shared his own struggles, admitting how his obsession with success had cost him his relationship with Jenna and left him feeling empty. For the first time in a long while, Alexander felt he could be vulnerable without fear of judgment. Their connection deepened, founded on mutual respect and empathy. Despite their vastly different backgrounds, they found a shared strength in each other's company, a quiet understanding that brought them both a sense of peace they hadn't anticipated. As they prepared for Jenna's wedding the next day, Alexander and Maria both sensed that their lives had already begun to change in ways neither could have imagined. The day of Jenna's wedding arrived, and as Alexander and Maria entered the grand venue, all eyes turned toward them. Maria, in her stunning dress, exuded a newfound confidence and poise. She no longer looked like the woman Alexander had met on the street. She looked radiant, composed, someone who belonged in the elegant setting. Heads turned, and whispers filled the room as guests marveled at her transformation. When Jenna saw Alexander with Maria by his side, her smile faltered, a flicker of surprise and confusion crossing her face. This was not the Alexander she remembered, and seeing him with someone who held herself with such dignity made her feel a pang of regret. As the evening progressed, Jenna found a moment alone with Alexander. She expressed her surprise at seeing him with someone like Maria, and hinted at her own regrets. Alexander, however, had already moved on. With a calm clarity, he told Jenna that he was at peace with their past and that he was grateful for the chance to begin a new chapter. Nearby, Maria overheard the conversation, her heart filled with mixed emotions. She wondered if she had been just a means for Alexander to make a statement, a passing companion on his journey of healing. When she confronted him, Alexander reassured her with sincerity, expressing that he cared deeply and wanted a future with her, not just a moment. Together, they left the wedding, slipping away from the lavish hall into the quiet of the night. In that peaceful moment, Alexander and Maria both felt a sense of hope and possibility, ready to embrace the new journey ahead, together.